So welcome everybody. I'd like to introduce you to our webinar today, which our webinar is on a new product that we're releasing, and it's on what we term as data inquiry apps and stat tiles. So what do we mean by this? We mean that it transforms complex operational and financial data into clear, actionable insights, enabling faster decision making and improved visibility across your organization. In this webinar, my name is Blair Valentine and I'm a Nimbus consultant. I'm also going to introduce Michelle Van Dyke. She's also part of our Nimbus sales and marketing team. And we have an extra special guest today from Palmer's Mechanical. Now, Palmer's Mechanical has been a customer of Nimbus's for I guess almost 35 plus years, and that will be Craig Stringer will be doing showing us what he's done with this product over with his system, and I'm looking forward to that. He's done some really exciting work. So today we're going to introduce our new data inquiry apps and stat tiles. And what are we going to learn? We're going to learn this is our first wave. So this is our start of these enhancements. So we're expecting to bring more of these sorts of data inquiry apps available as well. But we will show you what we've got so far and our ready-made analytical structures, which gives us faster and easier reporting and analysis in your hands. And that's the part that I'm really trying to emphasize, is in your hands. So partly in the past, a Nimbus report was something that your Nimbus consultant would create for you. This is something that we're aiming at, that you as a customer can actually create your own reports at your own leisure and not without needing us to give you any assistance. And we also have what we term as stat tiles, which is also designed to deliver instant visual insights without the need for a separate BO product or anything like that. And I'll go through and show you how they look. So putting all the puzzle of these pieces together is demonstrating the benefits of these new tools with your Nimbus ecosystem, and that's what I'll be doing. Then Craig's going to show and share his experience, showing his examples and talking about the value that it adds to his business. And then we're going to have some questions and answers at the end. So what we're aiming to do is that you can ask questions via the chat, and it's just that we will address these at the end of the seminar. So please just put those in the chat. We'll talk about those at the end. Okay, so from my perspective, I am going to give you a walkthrough of what these data inquiry apps are, how they kind of work, where they kind of fit, and also from a stat tile perspective. So I'll just share my screen. So when we install these data inquiry apps for you, there's a new menu item gets created, and you can see here on the left-hand side at the top, it's called data inquiry, and we've got a whole list of different areas of your Nimbus system. So we've got a data inquiry of creditor transactions, debtor transactions, job balances, so the summary of your jobbing type transactional information, job costing, job listing, purchase order detail information, purchase order summary information. We've got an inquiry app for your work in progress, and we've included what's termed as a dashboard. So let me just click on one of these just to give you an example of what these are and how they work. So if I click on the debtor transactions inquiry app, so what this is doing is this is looking at data within your Nimbus system, and by default we have these default screens, which has just got, like in the case of this, it's transactional dates and periods, and it's showing particular customers and what their 1 month, 2 month, 3 month sort of type balance figures are showing by default. And what we can do from this is that we can then the aim of these data inquiry apps is that we can then customize this, or you can customize this into something that's more actionable and meaningful data for you. And how this works is, if I just show you as an example, I'm just going to click on, I've created a few already just to show you. So I've created one called age balances. And if I click on my age balances, what's different about this is it rolls it up into the customer name, summarizes it by that, adds up any value in the current 1 month, 2 month, or 3 month columns, and puts it in a particular order. And I'll show you how that works. So in what we have is this little hamburger menu. If I click on that, it'll expand and it gives me a list of the fields that are displayed or available to you. So I'm only using just a fraction of what those fields are. So there's a whole lot more that are already there. And based upon these fields, if there are fields here that you want to, that aren't visible, that you wish to add, we have on this side here under tools, we've got an area where we can create custom fields, and another area where we can actually grab other fields. So as an example with the other fields, to try and make it nice and simple, we've got a wee button here that says add. We can have a look at, say I want to look at my debtor records. If I click on that, it'll open up and it'll say, okay, here's a list of all the fields that I can choose within my data records. And even in these areas here, it's if you've got like what we term as custom fields or U_ fields, all those fields will be showing within these, that you can actually add them yourself. So you can basically build additional fields on here that aren't displaying and use them for your reporting in this reporting tool. And as an example, I'm just going to sort of just jump a little bit here. I'm just going to jump into my job balances one, because I just want to show you that we've also job balances, which is your job costing, and it's your overall balances of your job at a high sort of summary type level. But from a field perspective, we've actually kind of gone a little bit overboard in this one, but it gives you a good example of what's possible. So we've got values in here, which is like if your cost minus your invoice amount, or costed amount, or your costed quantities, or your invoice amount, or your plant amounts, or on order, or your quote minus. We've got a whole lot of combinations of different fields just to try to make it easier for you, so you can choose whatever fields you want and display them on this screen. And if I go back to my one where I was in my data transactions, I just also wanted to point out how I actually summarize those fields, because that's quite useful. So what we've got here is we've got this little sort of E sort of type symbol, which is what a symbol for summarizing. So I can very easily click on that field and choose to summarize by it, and it will automatically roll up and summarize those other transactions. So it makes it nice and simple. You don't have to do any of the hard work about grouping or anything like that. It does that for you. Now, if I move along, just the fields that are across the top here, just to show you what is available. If I go and I choose on this one that says data, what this is it gives you an example of the data that's displayed on your screen. You can basically use that to export it to a spreadsheet or anything like that, just to sort of display it. I'll just show you what that looks like. So in here, you can see that I've got it summarized. I've got some colors that are in here, and what you see, if I just export this with the totals, and I get to open that up. You can see that what I've got exactly on the screen is what it actually exports as, including any sort of type formatting or coloring that you've got, and there brings that through at the same time. And you can export that with totals without, to CSVs, to PDFs, PDFs with totals, and obviously depending on what type of data that you're pulling out of it, you can do it as an XML, or if it's some sort of date related transactions, you can sort of use calendar views and things around that as well. If I click on the views area, I just want to show you what this is. So I've created another version of this data on which I've basically got a bar graph. And in this views area, this is where you define what the views actually look like. So in the example of this, I've got this chosen as a vertical bar. I can easily just click on the horizontal bar to change it to something else. I can easily just change it then and say I want it to be a line, or I could change it to be, I want it to be some sort of smooth bar or anything like that. So it's very easy with the data that you've got then to choose to put it into some sort of type graph form. I can change it back to see what is my actual grid, so what's my data underneath it. Oops, that's just turning out to hide the dollar value. Just expand that a little bit. The values that are underneath it. So it makes it very easy to have anything that you can create as a report with data in here with actual numbers to actually turn it into something that's represented into a bar graph or a pie graph or whatever that you want to sort of make around that. So it becomes really simple from that perspective. If I then show you some other areas of this, so if I show like sort of my another one, so I've created one with top clients for the last 12 months, I'll put a bit of color in that. So in my formatting area, what I'm saying in this is that I'm saying that if the format relates to a row, so the format relates to a row, and I'm going to turn it green if my amount is greater than $15,000 or something like that. So it's very easy with the combinations. I can choose rows, I can choose fields, I can choose to change the text color, the background color, the fonts, put all sorts of conditions in there that I want. And if I've got lots of different conditions and I just want to see that in a summarized view, if I click on this little button that says view, I can easily see that my formatting is applying to the entire row, my background colors become forest green, and it's when the amount's greater than 15,000 or something like that. So it makes it really simple to be able to sort of make some sort of color formatting on these to make it even more powerful to highlight key bits of information on your screen. We also then have in this area we've got a sorting area, so we can then sort by whatever values that we want. So in this case, sorting by the amount and descending. So we've got a lot of power that we can put into these reports that makes it really powerful for you to bring in this in any shape or form that you want. And when we've done all that, what's really great is that we've got at the top here, we've got the save button. So I can save this as another view. If I added some extra fields, I could call it something else. I could save it for all users, or if I wanted to, in the case of that it was just for me, so I just wanted to see this with a particular range of fields or a particular way that I wanted to see it, I can actually create this view and save it just for me. so that no one else can actually see that. So across the company or across myself as an individual. So basically those data inquiry apps gives us a tool to get the data, and then we can basically save it as different views and carve it up in any way or shape or form that you want to do. Now, what we also can do is that we've got another area here where it talks about reports. So just to show you that as an example and how that works, if I click on the reporting area, it's saying that for that data inquiry app, data transactions, I've created a couple of reports, my data age balances version and my top clients. It's created them as a Word document. So I can run this. So if I just run this and show you what it looks like, it's just the same format of what you see, but you can sort of pretty it up. You can make bolder, put some logos in, change some colors, do whatever that you want with it, and make it sort of an easier way to view it. As another example, if I show you what that's done, so when you create your view of your data and your report, and you basically go into this reporting area and you go on for it to create a report, it will automatically create it. So it will pull through the fields that you're showing on your screen. It'll do all this information for you automatically. All you have to do is then you can do some formatting around that, change the fields around a little bit, change some colors and that sort of thing. So it's very easy. If you're used to using Word or tables in Word or any of those sorts of things, it's very easy for you to do what you need to do to make these reports look a little bit better. Which, you know, what are the possibilities around that? It could be used for management reporting. It could be used for all different things around that. So once we've done that, so once you've pulled all that stuff together, you've got all your data, you've formatted in the way that you want, you've got your reporting, what do you actually do with it? Well, then we've given this the area where you can do dashboards. And dashboards are, we can set up, or you can have multiple different dashboards. So like some example that you saw before, my data age balances bar I've brought through and showed it on this dashboard. My pie chart version I've brought it through here. My listing of that information I've brought it through here, so at a glance you can actually see that. So at the moment I just have one dashboard on the left hand side, but there's no reason why there's not 4 or 5 different menu items for different dashboards for different things that you wanted to bring up, and that different people from a Nimbus perspective can have some security and some things wrapped around that. Very easy to do. I'll just show you how that works. I just turn on now so I can kind of edit the dashboards, and if I click on one of them, you can see that it's saying, okay, I'm running data inquiries. So over here, my data inquiry, it's my data transactions. I've told it I'm running my age balances bar view that I had. I told it what size it was, and all I had to do was then tell it, you know, what I want to call it, age balances bar. And it was as simple as that. And it became a tile and a dashboard that I could use. And some of the other things you can do in here as well is actually drill down. So my data transactions, if I was to click on it, it brings me up a listing of what those data transactions actually were. So it shows me in a report. And then you can see that any items that's highlighted. So in the case of this, it's got a listing of the customers. I can click on one of those customers, like my automotive electrical, and I can drill it down again to the transactions that are making up those that listing that I had before, and I can actually define what it actually drills down to. So I created one called transactions, so I could drill down to that. So I can set it all up at that level, which becomes super powerful and super easy to use. So then what we've also got I'm introducing is what we've termed as stat tiles. So from when we install this, from a stat tile perspective, what they are in different areas of the system. So under job flow, there is a new ST dashboard. So these are like a dashboard that I just showed you before, which was a dashboard that you can create yourself. And these are more like a dashboard that Nimbus will create on your behalf. They're designed to be super fast, to show information at a glance, and something that from a user perspective, not necessarily for you able to change, but from a Nimbus perspective, if you ask one of your consultants, we could possibly add more ones or bring more in over time. So this is like sort of an example from a jobbing perspective. So a dashboard gives you some information of what they are. Oh, and just to say, when you get these, we give you sort of a training around how to actually use them, and some instruction manuals or user manuals about what this information is, where it's coming from, and also instructions on like sort of with data inquiries, how they all work and pulling them together. So other examples around this. So we've got, from a job flow perspective, we've got a finance dashboard showing you lots of different sort of type financial information. If you don't want any of these, so if they're not useful or you don't want people seeing your bank balances or anything like that, they can be removed from here so that you don't see them. And they could get created as a separate version for somebody that has permissions to see that. So they can be removed if there are ones here that you don't want to see. So there's ones from a finance perspective, there's ones from a debtor perspective, more of a simpler version of your top clients and your accounts receivable values, and the same thing from a creditor perspective. Something similar as well. What are your outstanding payables? What are the values of 1, 2, 3 months, and what's actually sort of showing there as well. So that was it's a real quick run through on what this is, but what we're sort of trying to give you is just a glimpse of what it's actually capable of, and I kind of think that I can sort of show you these sorts of things, but I think the real power is in if we actually have a look at what how somebody's actually used this. So from our perspective, I would like to introduce Craig Stringer from Palmer's Mechanical, and we really appreciate that Craig's actually spent some time working through these in his own system, and we're really excited for you to see what Craig's done. So Craig, I'd like to hand this over for you.
Thank you, Blair. Welcome everybody. So at each client forum, JDM would showcase new technology which they've been developing. A few forums ago, Mike from JDM demonstrated a new set of reports in the NGP suite. These reports presented graphs and data in a much clearer, more useful way than the traditional Nimbus reports, and this immediately caught my attention. Over the last couple of years, I've regularly asked Daryl and the team when these reports would be released to us. I also showed them how we were completing some of our end-of-month processes and how slow and outdated those methods were, with too much reliance on exporting data to Excel and running macros. In my normal pushy way, I kept pressing the point until Gail made what I'd call a very brave statement. On a site visit with Daryl, presumably after me advising how behind Nimbus was becoming with its reporting, Gail said, if it can be done in Excel, it can be done in Nimbus. That only made me more persistent with trying to get this the reporting to us. Fortunately, about 2 months ago, they approached me and asked, would I be interested in having a bit of a play and exploring these reports? Blair and I have spent several sessions over the last couple of months going through the out-of-the-box reporting, and we've worked through how I could start making my own reports. And as I say, Blair's been exceptionally helpful and teaching me how to do some of the more complex formulas. Since then, I've created 3 dashboards, each of these with a different reporting need, and these are all of mine are all based from the job costing. So I'm just going to share my screen and show you what I've been doing. Right, so hopefully everyone should just see my Nimbus menu there with my beautiful 3 dogs lying on my sofa. So the first dashboard I want to introduce is our labour dashboard. So before we introduced the dashboards, producing labour productivity reports was a slow and manual process. We relied on predefined reports that exported data into Access, where automatic macros were used. To alter these reports was very time-consuming and very outdated. Using the dashboard system, we can now view tables for our current month, previous month, and year-to-date figures in one place. Previously, producing the same tables meant exporting data to Excel, running macros, building pivot tables, and applying formulas. To produce all 3 sets of data across 6 reports, we had to repeat the process 3 times, each time exporting a different period. Now, with a single click in the labour dashboard, all 3 sets of reports appear on the screen after a short wait. The period filters only need to be updated once a month. So in the top left, the first 2 reports we've got there are my current May labour productivity reports, and I've colour-coded to make it even easier for me to see what they are. The first colour there in I'll call it a light salmon, is our non-productive labour. The cyan is our productive chargeable time, and the very light blue is our productive non-chargeable time. And as I say, you can just very quickly see, with some simple math that, we're having a reasonably good month. Then the next one, which I knew I wasn't supposed to click it, we'll close that. Shows each of the different time categories that have been charged and the number of hours beside, and again, color-coded, yellow for leave, green is for sick or bereavement leave, and the salmon color is for allowances. On the top right, we've got the previous month's total, so we can quickly compare the current month against the previous month, and down the bottom we've got our year-to-date totals. And again, it's all there, one click of a button, without running 3 or 4 sets. The second dashboard, which I'm showing you, is my end of month dashboard. We created this dashboard to make the end of month processing faster when reviewing jobs completed in the previous period. Standard reports do not show the breakdown between materials, plant, and labour. The data inquiry report lets us see that breakdown along with any gains or losses much more easily. When invoicing quota jobs, we also use to manually journal the split between plant, materials, and labour. These reports now show that split quickly. We've also created custom fields, and this is where Blair's been exceptionally helpful, that roll any gains or losses into revised labour totals. We also have a current work in progress report that shows the split between plant, materials, and labour again. This level of detail is not available in our standard WIP actual reports, and I'll drag the current reports across. So many of you will be, all of you, I'm presuming, will be familiar with these reports. On the left here, we've got our jobs finished all report, and this is for April invoices. And the one above is exactly the same data, except it's now been split with plant, stock, time, and our new labour totals. And again, with colour coding, it just makes it so much simpler for you to see. I use yellow to show materials and blue to show labour totals. And work in progress is the same. The current work in progress on the right-hand panel there, again, just shows you the costed, any invoiced values, and the current work in progress total. And down below, you can see there that it's automatically split between the plant, stock, and time. Again, it's just so much quicker that if you want to have a quick look at a job, how much we spent on this, how much time's on it. It saves, you don't have to go in and print the cost reports. 5 years ago, I'll just show you the next dashboard. 5 years ago, we secured a contract to build mining trucks for Australia. Since then, we've produced 2 types of trucks with the total production reaching 45 units to date. We could track the purchasing through quote orders. We could also use spreadsheet and Nimbus job costing to monitor profitability. However, this did not give us the easy view of cost split between truck, month, or build type without exporting the data into Excel and running macros. At a broad level, I presented spreadsheets that showed project progress and highlighted areas where improvements and efficiencies were being achieved. Even so, we did not have a quick way to view monthly totals, truck type cost splits, and overall progress. This is where the dashboards have made a real difference. With a single click, we can now see the current month build costs by type, split into materials, plant, and labour, total build cost by sections, along with the ratio between labour and materials, overall project cost by month, current costs by units by section, and the amount purchased for each active unit. A work in progress total showing all builds installed in production. This information was always available in Nimbus, but without the dashboards, make it faster to extract and present visually. So the top 2 left are a type of unit we're doing, which is called a bulk master. The very top left tile, I can quickly see that the black there is how much I've spent on materials in the month of May, and how much time has been put as a value. The next one is showing over the entire project, which has been running for just over 3 years. And I can see the same deal, how much has been split between materials and labour. And the third tile shows me there's a pie graph, the split between stock and time being approximately 2/3 materials, 1/3 time. And as I say, that sort of information is there. I can quickly present that to my board and compare that to what our assumptions were at the start of the project and how we think we're running. The current FM build ones there on the high right, that's becoming closer to the end of the project. So we've spent all our money on materials, and we can quickly see that our material costs are a lot lower than what our time costs are. But when we look at the overall project, same deal, we can still see that we spent approximately that 60-40 split on stock against time. Then we've got the next one here, which you can see the split between materials, plant, and time per month. That's for the FM project there. The Bogmaster project, same deal. But again, that started in 2013. We have our current costs for May against all the different trucks we're producing. And again, we can quickly see how much plant we've put in, stock, or time. And down the bottom, we've got our current purchases, which is the same information, but that's just showing only our actual direct cost that we've been bringing in, the stock cost, our margins, etc. And down the bottom, our current work in progress per unit. And again, split between stock in this time, our non-chargeable time, which more often is training for our apprentices, the total cost that we've had for the vehicles and how much has been invoiced, and our current work in progress totals. So in conclusion, in summary, these dashboards have significantly improved the way we report and review our business performance. They provide immediate access to key information across projects, labour and end-of-month reporting. They improve visibility by presenting data more clearly and in a format that supports better decision-making. They reduce the need for slow manual spreadsheets-based processes and make reporting more efficient and reliable. They turn data that was already in Nimbus available into something practical, accessible, and useful for day-to-day operations and management reporting. And in response to Gail's statement, if it can be done in Excel, it can be done in Nimbus, I currently have no doubt to say that she's making a pretty good attempt to make that become a reality. That's the end of my presentation. What I would like to say is if you do have any more questions, please put them up there, and between the three of us, we'll attempt to answer. But it is a very good piece of programming I'm playing with. And it certainly is something that I've been waiting on a number of years for, and it's pretty pleased that they're bringing it to the table for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. That was very impressive what you've done. So I think you can see there from what I showed you from a functional perspective what it's capable of, as to then what Craig's actually demonstrated what you can actually do with it. I think that's really impressive. I hope that you can take a lot away from that. I would just share my screen. So we're at the point now where if you have any questions or you have any comments that you want to sort of raise, we can try to answer those at this point. But we've also got there just our contact information. If you're interested in our data inquiry apps and our stat tiles and you'd like these in your Nimbus system, please just email sales@nimbus.co.nz and we'll be more than happy to put those on for you to have and as part of that we do some training so you can also just hit the ground with your feet running. Okay. Any questions, Michelle?
At this stage, we have only one question, so I can just read it out. Do the base report already exist, or are we making our own reports? Is this replacing the need for us to request a new base report to be made?
Yeah, so what I showed you before, am I sharing my screen? I am showing you my screen. So what I showed you before with these dashboards, so these base reports, so each one of them, whether it's creditors or there's a default report. So there is actually a base report in each one of these. So what you get as part of that is the base report, and that allows you to build upon the base report or make changes or do whatever that you want to enhance it to match what you need from your system. So there are base whip type versions of reports and information that's already there. So all the fields, everything should be there to sort of out of the box for you to start creating from that perspective. But it's really as from what Craig showed us, it's pretty much you're able to customize it to whatever that you need from your business perspective. It's a powerful tool.
Thanks, Blair. So at this stage, there's no other questions. I was thinking we'll have plenty of questions for Craig. So if anyone else has any questions, please pop them in the chat. So Craig, I don't know if you want to talk about a little bit about just how long it took you to get the hang of it or to go through the training, perhaps.
As I say, the training side of it. When I first started playing with and looking through it. It did look very daunting, I suppose, is the word I'd look at. I mean, there's a lot of data sitting there and it's all, very basic Nimbus type looking stuff. But I think when you want to plan your reports, you really need to think about what your outcome is going to be. If you are or do have a good knowledge of Excel and how you're getting your current reports, I think that's possibly a good way to look at it with some basic logic. There was areas that I certainly didn't understand, and that comes back to when I was sitting there with Blair going through it. A certain level of knowledge around the SQL logic and its language is very helpful. But again, that's where like some Blair will go through and create some reports or fields, custom fields for you, which you can utilize to customize yourself. And that's what I've done with a lot of my reporting. Blair would create this one custom field, and then I can go along and use those formulas to create my own custom fields. But as I say, I think you've got to know what you want before you start doing it, because otherwise you just end up putting yourself in a hole where you don't know how you've got there or how you're going to get out. So I think it's just, as I say, really you've got to just design the reports you want on paper first before you start trying to achieve them.
And I think too, perhaps Craig, like so from your perspective, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you had a lot of this sort of look and feel of how you wanted those reports, because you did a lot of things in Excel. You took a lot of the existing reports that we had, you exported the data, you put them into Excel and ran macros and things to merge them all together. So you kind of had a bit of an overview as to where you were sort of heading. So you had a sort of plan in place, which sort of helped to sort of create or replicate some of those things, which is perhaps something that from all of our customer base, and I'm sure there are a lot of spreadsheets where people have pulled data out of Nimbus and manipulated it just to get it the way that you want it. And this gives you the power of just creating it for yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I honestly would have probably 60 or 70 macros sitting in my library that I was using all the time just for different functions. And as I say, I mean, with those 3 dashboards I've created, I've probably mitigated probably 10 or 15 of those reports already just by, spending that time to do it. Honestly, I'd say I've probably spent the better part of 30 to 40 hours creating those 3 or 4 dashboards. But again, that's given me a lot of knowledge that I've now got to start doing the next, lot of reports and dashboards that I need to do. At this stage, I've only been working on job costing. But as I say, I certainly will be starting to jump into the other ones very shortly. So.
Great stuff. Thank you, Craig. Well, it doesn't seem like we have any other questions. So unless you have any other final thoughts or comments you would like to share, Craig, I'll hand over to myself. Do you have anything else you'd like to add, or have you said pretty much everything?
I think so, but I mean, I think it's something that is exceptionally valuable. And I mean, like when I first was talking to Daryl and Gail at the beginning about, I'll say how I thought Nimbus was becoming a bit outdated with its reporting. I mean, the modern board people, accountants, they like graphs. They're into programs with Xero, and which is very simple and very graphical. And that looks great, but with Nimbus, you've actually got the real data behind it. All of my data is live. Where some of this other stuff in Xero, it's all outdated type stuff. But I think it's a really good tool. And as I say, certainly the initial feedback that I'm getting from my board is they're very pleased with what we're doing and how we're going with the stuff.
Fantastic. Thank you, Craig. Alrighty, well, thank you very much for everyone who took the time to attend today. Just as a reminder, I always post these webinars on our YouTube channel and social media, so you can go back and watch it, or of course share with your team. And then just before we wrap up, I'm very excited to announce the dates for our client forum this year. And this year we'll be going bigger and better. So we'll host our client forum on the 11th and 12th of November this year. And what's new? So based on the feedback that we had from last year's successful client forum, we decided to expand it to 2 days, giving you more value, insights, and hands-on learning opportunities. So day 1 will be very much the same as previous years, where you'll have the opportunity to connect with the Nimbus team, get a bit of a behind-the-scenes look at what's coming, and of course network, share ideas, and learn from from your peers. But then on day 2, which is absolutely optional, so you don't have to attend, but we're giving you the opportunity to get your hands dirty, so to speak. So the second day will be all about running a small series of interactive workshops at our office where you can really learn a lot. So more details to come. At this stage, we're just announcing the date, so you can start planning for that. So if you have any ideas or questions, please feel free to pop them through to, as Blair mentioned, the sales email address, or get in touch with either directly me or Daryl. So that's it from me. Thanks again for attending.